anyway, thank you all so much for being here on our session to talk about the Department of Small Business Services and the Neighborhood Challenge Initiative that we ran to help our commercial corridors in the city thrive and experiment with new technologies. I'm going to do a little bit of sort of talking at you, and then we'll have our fantastic panelists who have a lot more interesting things to say than I do about the work that they actually did. I want to thank BetaNYC and MODA and Open Data Week and everybody who's been working on putting this conference together. It's fantastic. So thanks for inviting us to be here. I'm Lara Birnback. I'm the Director of Capacity Building Initiatives in the Neighborhood Development Division at the New York City Department of Small Business Services. I'm trying not to use acronyms as much as I can because that's really annoying, and we in government use them far too much, so I'll do my best on that. But what is Small Business Services? If you don't know, what SBS does is really to try to create equity of opportunity, to unlock economic potential and create economic security for all New Yorkers, right? So we kind of have three main focus areas in our agency. We work on creating good jobs and connecting New Yorkers who are looking for careers and good jobs with those jobs, working with the businesses. We also work to develop stronger businesses. We do this in a lot of different ways. We have a ton of sort of business-facing direct services and programs. For anybody at the stage of like just walking down the street and has a brilliant idea for a business, but didn't go to business school and is like, I have this fantastic idea, but what do I do? So we can help you at that level. We can also help you if you have an established business and you're looking to grow, but you're not sure how to access financing or capital. And then we do actually work with some, we still consider small businesses, but quite well-established businesses here in New York City. So sort of we run the gamut and try to serve everybody at all stages. And then finally, the third prong of what we do is to really work on creating thriving neighborhoods. And that's the team that I work in, the neighborhoods team, and that's where this Neighborhood Challenge program grew out from. I realize I'm standing in front of the panel, so I'm going to move over here. Okay, so thriving neighborhoods, what does that mean for us? So the way that we like to work is understanding that we sit in our office at 110 William Street, and we are not the people on the ground working in the neighborhoods. That is these folks here, our community-based development organizations that we work with. So that's business improvement districts, local development corporations, chambers of commerce, all the kind of mostly nonprofit, economic development focused CBOs here in our city. In some way, shape, or form, our team ends up partnering with them so that they can serve the businesses and the residents in their community and really create these thriving, livable neighborhoods where people are comfortable shopping and doing business and playing and going out on the weekends to public events. So that's the core of what we do at the Neighborhood Development Division. So Neighborhood Challenge, which is what we're here to talk about today, was a really interesting, innovative, we think, experiment to pair nonprofit community-based development organizations of the kinds I was just speaking of, BIDs, merchant associations, LDCs, et cetera, with tech companies, in some cases startups, to really create and implement some new tools to address specific commercial district needs. So what does that mean? That's things like small business attraction and retention, street vendor sitting and fine reduction, sustainability and energy efficiency, management of public space and streetscape amenities, community outreach, district marketing. So those are the kinds of challenges or struggles or issue areas that the groups that we work with are tackling.
I'm giving up on it.
Every day. Give it up. It's all right. I'm halfway through anyway. Thank you for your efforts. So we paired, as I said, tech startups with our nonprofit organizations to create and implement new technology and data tools that would address these specific challenges. So it was a competitive process that awarded ultimately $100,000 to fund these innovative ideas using data-driven capacity building solutions to target services or address local policy challenges. So for us at SBS, the value of Neighborhood Challenge was really to try to help empower the community groups that we work with to experiment with technology and data tools that they wouldn't otherwise have access to if we weren't funding them to do so through this kind of program, right? And many of the groups that we partner with are really, really small, right? In some cases, it's like one ED is running the show, and that person is torn, as you can imagine, in a million different directions, right? They're running this organization all on their own, and they're serving a lot of different constituents, and while they might be really fired up about trying out new technologies, frankly, they don't really have the time, or to use the very overused term bandwidth, to think about how to do that. So we were really hoping that this would be a way that we could incentivize and encourage our groups to feel a little bit more freedom and time to experiment with some of these technologies, and that for the tech companies who we paired with, this would give them a new way to either test out their ideas or work in a very hyper-local setting. So they're the experts in that. I'm going to let them talk more about that. But just to reiterate, this was, that was kind of why we thought Neighborhood Challenge could be interesting and exciting. We viewed it as a capacity building opportunity for our partners, who we think, have really benefited from the opportunity to work with partners in the technology space and to pilot different kinds of programs and interventions. So I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves in 1 minute, but I just wanted to very quickly run through, so that they don't have the burden of doing it, very quickly run through, like, what did Neighborhood Challenge fund, right? What happened out of this program? And here's where I have the really beautiful visual slides, but we'll just have to use our imagination, right? So one of our partners was Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn, Myrtle Avenue Partnership, who partnered with Benefit Kitchen, Melanie here, which is a woman-owned tech startup, to support low-income households to meet their needs locally. So Benefit Kitchen was an existing app which connects users to 18 different government benefits. And Mark partnered with 12 local businesses to connect the program participants who were using Benefit Kitchen with some additional and unique sort of hyper-local benefits. So for example, they could go on Myrtle Avenue and get a reduced cost eye exam because one of the participating businesses on Myrtle said, hey, great, I'm gonna offer a discount for local residents. And Benefit Kitchen was able to put that into their service in their app. So the benefits were added to a Myrtle Avenue specific page on the app, which allowed new users to search for and identify federal, city, and super hyper-local social benefits all in one place. The Benefits on Myrtle campaign ultimately connected over 100 lower-income residents to these benefits through a lot of community surveys and a very extensive marketing campaign. Is that a good summary?
Well, yeah. I mean, we had just kind of gotten started when everything ended for the grant, so we're continuing just amping up and getting, free yoga classes. If you're low income, you've got a lot of problems and issue areas that don't all revolve around your income. So free yoga, farmers, market money, like all these great things were happening in the community, but nobody knew how to highlight it. So it's so fun. Myrtle Avenue is hot nowadays. It's great.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to cut you off really quickly so I can get
I was
to you guys. Rockaway Business Alliance and Perch Advisors, represented here by James today, launched Rockaway Connects, which is a campaign to connect both residents and visitors. We all know Rockaway is an extremely seasonal area, right? So connecting residents and visitors alike throughout the Rockaway Peninsula with local businesses and services. So these guys deployed 100 Bluetooth beacons and accompanying branded signage with QR codes. Rockaway Connects was able to connect residents and visitors with location-specific information like discounts, events, news, nearby services, any other kinds of things that they might like to know, either as a resident making their way through the peninsula or as a visitor. 60 businesses participated in this program. They received trainings on how to manage and maintain the beacons, how to update the messaging on the beacons, right? So if this was your beacon, you were able to, you had the control and the ability to kind of change what was there. Rockaway Connects was also very successful in incorporating some placemaking elements to their project. They collaborated with local artists, for example, creating Rockaway Art Scavenger Hunt. And finally, a partnership with the New York City Parks Department enabled them to utilize the beacons to provide information on beach closures. I don't know if you guys remember last year, right before the beaches were set to open, there was a really fun announcement for people in the Rockaways that, hey, guess what? We're closing a bunch of beaches this summer. So this was actually a way that they were able to kind of mitigate some of the potential, lack of information around like which beaches were open when, and so they really were adept at jumping on that in a really timely manner. And then let me introduce everybody, and then I'll stop talking. Okay, Neighborhood Narrative was a project from Think Chinatown and the Chinatown LDC. We have Alec and Ian here to speak about that, which assisted Chinatown businesses in overcoming some of the cultural and language barriers that can sometimes lead to misrepresentation of those businesses on social media platforms. Like, people don't always know, what is this business? What do they sell? What do they offer? What can I find here? What's unique? So in order to combat this kind of lack of information or misinformation, Think Chinatown developed a really amazing site called howtochinatown.nyc, which is an interactive web-based map that highlights local, culturally significant businesses and institutions. In addition, they conducted a lot of in-person capacity building workshops for local business owners, trying to help them understand the importance of maintaining a social media presence, claiming your business on social media, all those kinds of things that they might not necessarily inherently be comfortable with or familiar with. How to Chinatown was able to really, through How to Chinatown, they were able to really help those businesses be more comfortable in that space. 45 small businesses in Chinatown participated in surveys and photo shoots, and they worked with Think Chinatown to evaluate and improve their online presence. The stories and information that the business owners provided were translated, curated, and uploaded to the howtochinatown.nyc site. And what was also great about it was that it allowed those business owners were also able to go on that site and pull those photos and those profiles and those stories and use them in their own social media, the business's own individual social media feeds and presence. Interestingly as well, the team partnered with Urban Archive to create an online map highlighting arts and historical institutions in Chinatown. All right, and last but not least here, we have the Long Island City Partnership, which was really about a wayfinding project. So in Long Island City, I don't know if those of you are familiar, it's not like laid out on the easy Manhattan grid. It's not always easy to know where you're going or how to access local businesses. So this was an opportunity to create some comprehensive signage and a wayfinding system that will inform and orient visitors with opportunities to engage with the local community. LIC Local combines visual signage cues with district-wide branding, and the wayfinding system works in both a digital and an analog manner. The logo is designed so that all the signage can orient pedestrians using cardinal directions, and each sign also includes an embedded QR code connecting the user to a digital platform and map. And we have Star from CitySense here representing those guys. Really quickly, they're not here today, but the 5th Neighborhood Challenge Award went to the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership along with the Dumbo Business Improvement District. They partnered with a group called AppSpots to create a visitor engagement solution technology which unified the 2 public Wi-Fi networks in downtown Brooklyn and Dumbo, creating the first of its kind Wi-Fi-based digital wayfinding and promotion system. Using geocoded and static wayfinding technology, thousands of annual visitors and residents and workers have access to a tool that showcases local businesses, events, community initiatives, ongoing deals. You scan your phone on the QR code. They have a lot of these. If any of you have been in downtown Brooklyn on those big belly trash cans, it's like, hey, you're in downtown Brooklyn, find out what's happening. You scan your phone, and you immediately get all kinds of interesting information about what's happening locally at that moment in time. So a very comprehensive marketing campaign for these 2 commercial districts. And the application automatically sources the content from participants' own web pages, social media channels, etc., with the Business Improvement District's website. So I am definitely going to stop talking now. I want to turn it over to our amazing panel. So if you guys don't mind just introducing yourself, and then we'll launch right in introducing yourselves, and we'll launch right into some questions about your work, and then we'll have time at the end, the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, for amazing audience questions. Thank you.
Melanie Lavelle, founder and CEO of Benefit Kitchen. We're the first and only app in the country that allows low-income families to screen themselves privately without the government for 18 federal, state, and local benefits like food stamps, childcare, Medicaid, all the different that come with being a low-income worker. And we partnered with Myrtle Avenue on this project.
Star Childs, CEO and founder of CitySense. We've been working with business improvement districts specifically on a platform to help them manage data about their neighborhood. We're both startups, so we're two startups here.
It's funny when I'm the tech person. I'm like, wait, aren't I a social service person? No, I'm the tech person.
And yeah, the Neighborhood Challenge is a great opportunity for us to build on top of what we've already been doing with the bids to show how having a data platform is useful for a neighborhood.
Hi everyone, my name is Yin Mei, and here, actually here with Alec to stand in for our founder, Yin Kong, also named Yin. Currently acting on their tech board and assisting with the project, which does intergenerational learning projects and supports community engagement with creative ways to provide that type of education.
Yeah, also two of us standing in for Yin, such a presence and energy. I'm Alec Turnbull. I'm also on the tech board. I've been involved with Yin, helping kind of plan out, both Yins, plan out the How to Chinatown project and its many kind of spin-offs. By day, I run a product and engineering group for a media company. So this is always good to do, and it's been fun to explore kind of being a tech board as in between that collaboration with startups and kind of the nonprofit side.
Good afternoon, I'm James Ellis. I'm with Perch Advisors, and we are a private consulting firm that specializes in supporting local nonprofit organizations. I'm the Senior Director of Community and Economic Development, and which my portfolio has me working explicitly with business improvement districts, merchants associations, and other community groups in various capacities depending on what they need.
Great. James, I'm going to ask you to continue. It was about 2 years ago, actually, that we as SBS announced our plan to try to launch this Neighborhood Challenge program with tech companies. What about it, when you first heard about it, what seemed interesting or innovative to you? Like what captured your
Well, initially, let's start off with the
attention?
Government's taking a dive into innovation. That in itself was a little, innovative. So we were excited by that premise. I think also the excitement was around, we were recently contracted to work with the Rockaway Business Alliance that was undergoing a kind of a rebranding and a rebirth out there. They were originally founded as the Beach 116th Street Partnership, focusing on 116th Street after Sandy kind of did its work throughout the peninsula. After a period of time that the organization was having its own internal struggles with human capacity and bandwidth, to reuse the term. And so we were asked to kind of step in and see what we could do to kind of broaden their scope and look at what opportunities they still had and how can make those connections. So a rebranding ensued. So we came in at the beginning of the rebranding, and when we heard about Neighborhood Challenge Grant, we were going through kind of our own little analysis of where we were and what we wanted to provide, and we saw this as an opportunity to look at it. But I will say the concept of technology might have been a little overwhelming at first. We're dealing with a lot of on-the-ground scenarios and not always people that might have technology in the forefront of problem solving. So that in itself was an interesting thing. But when we analyzed everything where we were, connectivity became kind of the common thread through everything.
Anybody trying to get internet on the Rockaways when you're on the beach and you're trying to find a friend and nobody can find each other?
That's right. And there's some, especially in Jacob Reese, because Jacob Reese is also
like
is a federal park, and they have different rules on where they can have access and connectivity there. But we looked at that as an opportunity, and we were just excited to see what it was and what we could do. And then from a third-party consultant, in a sense, we were also looking at it not just as a way to bring resources to the organization, but how could we leverage these resources to kind of really fortify the organization, create some sort of structures in place and have some programming, and the support of both SBS and our tech partners in kind of helping us drive this. So it was almost an exercise in growth at the same time of trying to solve a problem with technology.
Great, thank you. Star, I wanted to ask you, from the perspective of a tech company, leader of a tech company, what was interesting to you about Neighborhood Challenge, or what seemed innovative to you?
Yeah, so as a startup, we're always trying to do things a little bit differently to find new ways of improving existing workflows. And in this case, it's all about the neighborhood community. So how can you improve how neighborhoods are developed, how they evolve, how business activity performs in the neighborhood? And one of the things that we've been focused on is having an actual data platform to track a lot of that process. So the neighborhood challenge for us was an opportunity to actually prove that having this really granular data set about where businesses are, where development's happening, where streetscape assets are, like trees, bike racks, etc., all under one roof that the community controls, would actually enable them to do more, such as build this tool called NYC Local. So it was a validation opportunity for us, essentially.
Thank you. So, I think, Melanie, I wanted to ask you. So, Benefit Kitchen won the Big Apps competition in 2015, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Yeah, that's what my research tells me.
Yes, it is.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about how participating in Neighborhood Challenge sort of helped you further develop your mission to use data analytics for good?
And first, SBS has been so fabulous throughout this. I had no idea that bids really existed until we did this, and that's kind of part of, I guess, why you do these. Like, we won Big Apps, which was kind of funny. Do you know what Big Apps is? It's like this competition for open data software. And what was funny about it is that I have not a piece of open data available to me to use. So I had to reverse engineer all the formulas for all the federal, state, and local benefits myself, and then turn it into my own. Now I maintain all these formulas because the federal, state, and local government don't do it. But I won an open data. It's kind of funny if you think about it. But kind of part of what has been, it's like, what can you do if the government, if this stuff was made available, right? Like, it's kind of hidden for a reason. You know, they don't want everybody to come and get Medicaid and food stamps. If they did, you'd already have it. You know, like they'd call you and say, come in, get the help you want. You know, IRS can find you, nobody else can. You know, like that's the general rule. So if we did take this kind of data and use it in communities that are, you know, if you think of Myrtle Avenue, does everybody know where that is? Right on the water in Brooklyn. You've got Fort Greene, and then you've got housing projects, housing developments. They're not called projects, they're developments. Housing developments up and down. So you have like super high income and super low income, right, all mixed together. And you have all these, you know, $6 latte shops opening up. You got bike, it's the hipster meets housing developments. Like, what would it be to make everything feel like a community, not like two competing wars? So what was really great was going out, people want to help, right? And people were doing these good things, like the pharmacy that if you had Medicaid would give you $10 extra every week to also go to the farmer's market. Like, cool projects, but they didn't know how to reach the community that they wanted to reach. And Myrtle Avenue really pulled it together, and now we kind of have a framework for them, because if you think of these little nonprofits, we can all say, you know, like they don't have a lot of resources. They might have a website that, like, just what we could make and how excited they got. You're like, really? You know, like, because they just don't often get so much personal attention from the city or from tech. And that, you know, to be seen, which is what all of us want, right? Like, this is our community, here's where we are. It was just so uplifting and fun to do with such a vibrant neighborhood. Really, y'all should check Myrtle out. They got some great stuff.
Thank you. I want to turn it over actually to Yin and Alec. I want to shift a little bit into talking about some of the outcomes of the projects that you guys were all engaged in. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about sort of 2 or 3 or your favorite kind of, you know, this is what happened as a result of our work on Neighborhood Challenge. And I think what's especially interesting, I mean, all of the projects I think have had interesting, maybe unexpected effects, but I think especially in your area you had some sort of spillover actions happening that were quite anticipated from the start.
You want to talk about that? And then I'll go on it. Yeah, go for it. Ours came first, so yeah. We launched the project and then...
Yeah.
and then so much happened.
Awesome.
It's been a really good catalyst, I think, not just for the neighborhood, but also obviously for Chinatown and for other events kind of related to it. So this became a platform not just for these local businesses, but also for local cultural institutions and events. And it sort of spurred off as almost a promotional opportunity for How to Chinatown and for kind of getting the word out about this website and about all these business owners. Chinatown Arts Week, which was also kind of a certain platform, became kind of the launching opportunity for How to Chinatown, and it's also spurred just in the data collection process a lot of interactions, obviously with the bid, but also with the business owners, and you're much more involved with that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so as Alec was saying, the process through which we engaged everyone in order to build this final product, How to Chinatown.NYC, involved a series of workshops and brainstorming. And then after we launched, I think while we were launching, we were highly ambitious, and we also wanted to launch a Arts Week to kind of demonstrate all of our capabilities. And as you know, with anyone in this room who has ever built a web app or a technical product, having that sharp deadline and being like, this is all depending on this particular website working is
that deadline
intense. And it helped.
I mean, it was painful, but it helped.
It was painful, it helped. I think it also brought cohesiveness, one, internally, within Think Chinatown, with our tech board members and anyone contributing, with the artists that we were collaborating with. It was just tight conversations, always. And then as a result of that energy, as a result of that work that we put in, and how beautiful it turned out visually, if you take into account the artwork and the partners that we worked with, there was a technical partner, Postlight, that we worked with that alleviated a lot of that technical work for a portion of our website as well. I think you look at it and you're like, okay, we engaged 45 businesses. Think about all the work that we put into this. We have volunteer workshops where we train individuals over some wonderful food, of course, motivating factor, with how to talk to businesses, and then getting them out into the neighborhood and engaging with these owners, developing these relationships, convincing them that you can fill out this technical form and do these other online forms, and it's going to be okay. You're going to keep the password. It's not going to lock you out. Like, it won't be overwhelming because we're still here for you. And continuing that process has been the biggest catalyst for our community to engage intergenerationally, engage between businesses, and also give hope to individuals with creative talent and inherent interest in our community, but just no way to interface with it, an opportunity to have a talking point with us and be like, hey, I actually work at this company, we have this service, and we're looking to apply the services of this company directly to a case like yours. Can we have a conversation and continue that? So I think over the past few months, we have been kind of living that after effect of having a visual representation of what could be done, what can be built upon, and additionally, what are new pieces of information that we haven't captured yet in this format that we can generate events and interactions around in order to motivate the community to contribute, which is a very tough pain point, I think, with anyone here on this panel. The pain point is getting individuals who do not have a digital habit to embrace the digital habit that we are introducing to them as one that is relevant to their daily lives.
Thank you so much. James, do you want to follow on to perhaps what Yin was saying, either covering the idea of some sort of unexpected, you nodded when I said there were some sort of unexpected outcomes or spillovers, so maybe you can speak to that a little bit, as well as this idea of the challenge in getting people who don't have a digital habit as you were saying, to be comfortable with the new technology? Did you experience those challenges?
So, I mean, I feel we had many experiences. I mean, that being many, certainly some of them. I think some of the spillover and unexpected outcomes that we had was I think primarily, let's talk about Parks Department and government agency interfacing, and trying to get, after the announcement of the beach closure, trying to bring this resource that we had in the wings, this capacity to put up these little beacons to notify people where the nearest commercial activity can be, where's the nearest restaurant or coffee shop, or, or wherever they get food, because this part of the beach now was inaccessible. And then 2 blocks away was a very thriving commercial corridor. And I think that was a huge learning experience. I mean, working with our partners at SBS, trying to just engage with the other city agencies that may not have this mindset of let's embrace local community and technology. And all we were saying is, let's put these on your lampposts. Let us do this. And so I think going through that process was a huge learning experience, not necessarily from our seat as a consultant, because we know how that goes, but to bring our neighborhood leaders that were voluntarily running this organization to realize what those steps are and what the kind of bureaucracy levels are and the politics and engagement. I think that was a huge outcome for them and the leadership board of that organization. I think some of the other unexpected outcomes were that right when we engaged in this technology, the technology shifted. And so now beacons, you weren't able to push out these notifications to beacons to iPhones, because it got limited only to Android platforms. And so right when we had been designing this whole program to be interfacing with both platforms, and all of a sudden we had to pivot and go, uh-oh, what do we do now? And so therefore it became the opportunity with QR codes, which then also needed some sort of forward-facing marketing around it to get people to selectively engage with our program. So I think that became an interesting pivot too, in how the importance of marketing came to the success of the project.
Thank you. I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'll open it up to the floor. Star, I wanted to ask if you could speak a little bit about, from your perspective, the benefits of a program like this that brought nonprofit organizations, neighborhood serving organizations together with tech companies.
Sure. Yeah, nonprofit, city, public-private partnerships, all of these ecosystems to, I'd say the big value for us at least, and for what we're doing, trying to add value for the neighborhood through is that you're given an opportunity to focus really, really locally. I mean, it's again, what we've been kind of saying across the board here, but I think it's really important because how many of you guys have been to Long Island City? Pretty good amount. And
The Costco.
have you had any issues trying to find, a good coffee shop or a restaurant? Or, there's a construction scaffolding here that you don't know what's beyond, or you got to go across the street and run down that one to get to the next, train station. But it's a confusing place right now, and it's probably the best example, or one of the best examples of a neighborhood that's experiencing a lot of change. So it's really unique in terms of a model.
But not
for,
that much change after a couple of weeks ago.
Well, we'll see. That's I don't know what's going to happen, but really, I mean, whether it's Long Island City or not Long Island City, the fact is these places are very authentic, and they have their own local needs, local challenges that need to be addressed. And I think the public-private partnership model is really good for getting in there with the support, the resources, the framework that you need to go into an area and say, we have the authority through the city and through the local development corporation, BID, to actually engage you all and talk about what the challenges here are and come up with a solution together. So I think for us, that's the biggest advantage of that model, is it gives you legitimacy to going in there with a creative team to think about things and to really focus hyper-local on where the challenges are.
Does anybody else from the panel want to comment on that question around public-private partnerships or working in this very hyper-local way?
I think that what's interesting is when you get into these, when you actually deal with one issue, there's going to be a ton of different people involved, right? Like the government, is obviously small business services, and New York City is involved. You have housing authority or the Parks Department. There's so many, but then you also have businesses, and some are really small and some are huge, Starbucks or TD Bank or whatever, that finding the common goal for everybody, like they sometimes all overlap. And that's the sweet spot where, you know, people think like food stamps. They're like, oh, poor people. Well, Walmart makes 1 out of every $5 on food stamps annually. This is not, these aren't tiny, but that like your natural thought is like, oh, what's the value? There's value to finding the common goal so that everybody can jump in and share and push the work forward, because no matter what the issue is, whether it's businesses or getting people to Rockaways or like crazy Chinatown, because you know, every time I go, I feel like I'm a newbie and I've lived in New York for 20 years. You know, that Chinatown might as well, because just the language barrier and the signage, not that. The work you guys were doing is so cool, and you know, every time I see you, I ask you about where to get dumplings, and it's that kind, you know, like, because that neighborhood just confuses the heck out of me.
Add on to that with and Alec, we had a conversation with Alec earlier, and I think the way that you put it was, we live in Chinatown, but when you walk in the store, a lot of times you see everything, but you realize over time, or maybe through communication with other people who are familiar with the historical context, that there are certain stores that actually are precisely good at one thing. They also offer everything. So when you walk in, you just see everything.
Right,
It's
like
hard to
what
navigate.
you, I mean, with all the different stores in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And again, as someone who lives there, it's just like, you know that there's something special. You know that there's that thing that you're supposed to get there. But you don't have access to that neighborhood or kind of the people who are there to tell you what it is. And oftentimes, that's just kind of actually interacting with the business owner and talking to them and opening it up. But sometimes you feel that kind of hesitancy, or there is a real language barrier.
Because there's a signage issue, you
Yeah.
know, like there's some, I have no idea what's going on in certain stores, and some I'm scared to approach.
Yeah. I'd like to also add in that the idea of partnerships was huge in our project. I mean, we kept looking, and like I said, we were in this beginning phases of trying to identify the organization and where its role was in the community, especially going from 116th Street to a broader swath of the peninsula. And the peninsula is 11 miles long. The peninsula already has its inherent issues of division and connectivity from east to west, from Far Rockaway to Bell Harbor. It also has connectivity issues from the peninsula to the mainland in New York. And so bringing in this layer of city engagement felt a stronger connection to the mainland, if you will. So the east to west was a big connecting factor, big connecting residents. We also had the onset of the ferry coming. Here was a new opportunity to engage with a bunch of a new market, if you will. But yet it was going to dock on the bay side. And how do we bring those people into this commercial corridors and instead of just that ant march straight to the beach? And so there was a lot of opportunities there we saw. We saw the opportunities of engaging businesses that hadn't heard of RBA and getting them to know, oh, there's this program, and if I become a member, I can use these beacons for free. And so there was a lot of layers of partnerships that we saw and really tried to leverage to kind of amplify what it was that we were trying to do. Some with greater success than others, obviously. You know, that's what all projects are. And having this opportunity to be a part of Neighborhood Challenge Grant allowed us to take those risks with you know, at a, I guess you could say a low cost risk for us because it wasn't our money.
On that note, I think we'll open it up. It's great to see such a packed room. So hopefully you guys have been burning with questions this whole time that you've just been like sitting on and can't wait to get up. So yes.
I also have 3 questions. I'm going to ask both. The first question is, for people that are focusing on individual sites and programs in your communities, how do you update that periodically? And the second question is, you talked about getting people willing to engage in these. So are these projects written up somewhere? So if somebody wants to do another one, you already have like lessons learned that you can take to the community and say, look, this is what they did here.
The first question, I'm not sure that I fully understood what the first question was.
I think it's about keeping the content up to date.
Oh, the content. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge. Right, exactly. No, that's something, and I should actually clarify that the project we're working on there it hasn't launched yet, so we're still developing it. They're printing the signs to go up on street poles and people's storefronts right now. And I think think it's April that they're talking about launching it, but we'll see. The content management side of that, though, is a huge conversation that we're having with them. It's one initially where we want to generate the content internally as a team and launch the actual LIC local campaign or pilot, or whatever you want to call it, to incentivize the local community to actually contribute content going forward. So we do see a need to generate really hyper-local, up to the day, up to the hour, good content about events and businesses and perks and discounts and all these things that we think will drive engagement with the local business community. But going forward, that's got to be maintained by the community as a whole and be more collaborative for it to actually, provide value all the way through. So.
And to add, oh yeah, you go first. Yeah, you had a thought earlier.
Yeah. And again, that is an ongoing problem, and I think the way that we've implemented on it, just a technical level, was very simple. We use Airtable, so a lot of people can collaboratively kind of put that in. It's very easy for volunteers to use rather than a custom content management system. But it is something that we've had conversations with Yin Kong about in terms of maintaining it and going into the future. And I think it is something to be kind of conscious of with all of these data and technical projects, is that they can't just be treated maybe with the normal funding model of like, it's done, we close it, we write up a report, and then it's there. I think they really benefit possibly more than more traditional projects from like follow-on funding, follow-up, and the idea that you can kind of incrementally build on top of it.
And similar to that note, I would give it a specific example of the 45 businesses that we've developed relationships with. We're getting feedback about their experience with this particular web app that we've created, and also gathering a lot of good ideas from our contributors. And so I loved earlier at the keynote, I think Noel said something like, in New York, we'd like to do things right, not necessarily the faster, the quicker, the better. And that is exactly how we feel, I think. We want to do it right, because once you have that impression to someone who might be the first time they're getting an impression about a digital project for their neighborhood, that impression is hard to change. And so the relationship really matters, the support really matters, and that buy-in is what propels the living on of that project, as well as funding. Yeah, I don't like to spend this.
Yeah. So I think we, from our perspective, we're certainly hoping that all of these projects will live on in some way, shape, or form. And we're just beginning to address the latter question that you had. We're sort of just in the process now of sort of trying to collect all this information from the grantees about kind of what worked, what didn't work, lessons learned. And in some cases, like as Star mentioned, LIC is like about to launch. So it's definitely our hope that we can compile that into something shareable and digestible for others, so that it's not just like this happened and now we've all moved on and sort of forgotten about it or don't have anything to share out more broadly.
I'd like to just add on the content. I mean, we were, I guess, fortunate in the model that we decided to go with the beacons, is it was a notifier, right? And so it wasn't asking for a direct response. It was also a point of engagement in an area to do more exploration, right? It gives you something to do. So when we actually launched using the beacons as kind of a scavenger hunt to go around and find the beacons and you can see what it has to say. And in certain locations, there was like a badge that unlocked that gave you a discount somewhere. Other times, like at the vet office, it was cat videos. And who doesn't like receiving cat videos? So I mean, just sometimes it was like little Easter eggs, and sometimes it was a redeemable offer. And so I think with the multitude of businesses and having 100 potential beacon locations, we were able to kind of vary that content, which might help raise engagement levels because people were trying to figure out what's next or where am I going to find the next beacon announcement. And I'll also add that uniquely the model was trying to also engage some of our businesses that were non-brick and mortar, because there's a lot of pop-up shops out there and a lot of seasonal vending that's happening. And so we were able to engage with some of these more unique businesses that take these on the road with them. And so you might be at a little pop-up shopping area and all of a sudden a beacon announcement will come on saying, something interesting.
Did you find that the more seasonal or sort of pop-up unique businesses were more quick to warm to the Beacon technology and
Sure.
sort of adopt it rather than the more
They're looking for as much visibility as possible. So any other level of engagement, whether it linked to their social media or linked to their website that shows the product pages, I think was also good because they have limited ability on site if they're, they don't have all their products displayed, or maybe they want to say, sorry, I sold out of this one, but come and check me out here. Here's where more stock is.
Thanks. Who else would like to ask a question? Fantastic, thanks.
Are you collecting data on who's engaging with your apps or platforms, and are there particular goals that you're looking to meet in terms of engaging different types of users?
Well, we, for outreach and stuff, we'd go to every street fair. I mean, wow, I've been around Myrtle. Like the food pantries on Saturday mornings, I'd bring the kids. We'd all just, like, it was real, that's the beauty of these kind of hyper-local things. Our work is trying to keep low-income families feeling safe, that not everything you give us is about to target you in some way. So we've anonymized all of our stuff. It's free, easy. We don't want them, we never ask a social security or a name. Like this is all anonymized. For us, it was, it's more what businesses are doing things, and that's what we collect the information on, like what kinds of stores are offering assistance, which ones aren't, which chains are nicer to low-income, because we also had the rule, you must be doing good, like if you're doing some predatory lending, or just shady stuff, which there's quite a bit of when you get down, into even cell phone plans and like you had to be upfront and able to show the good you're doing to be highlighted with us, because there's a lot of ways for bad. So we're maintaining those contacts, but trying to keep the local, I don't want to be pinging them with information on their data plans, that they come and then they come back because something changes, you lose your job, you get a better job. They can come back and keep using us for all their stuff.
I would say, like, very simply on our site, we have very bare bones Google Analytics just to understand engagement, what language people tend to use when they visit the site, so that we can understand our demographic of who we're serving, and whether they're using mobile more or actually directly through a browser. So those are the simple types of analytics that we actually collect on anyone going through the website. But other than that, we do a lot of my data collection voluntarily through engagement, through relationships.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely are collecting data. When we launch it, I guess we'll have to wait till then. But the ability to measure it on the ground and see where people are actually scanning these QR codes and then going to a business and scanning like a perks code or something like that will be a really fundamental way to say, okay, this is how we can tweak this whole framework in the neighborhood to drive people in this direction or that direction, or to the place we want them to find the best experience, essentially. So yeah, when we launch it, the analytics will be there from Google Analytics and from the pages we've built with these QR codes on them to measure that. And then ideally, with any of these projects, I think a big part of it was to make some good scales and other neighborhoods could pick up and use as well. So that's kind of top of that, sure.
Our data collection was similarly anonymous. I mean, we were able to collect data on a metric level of just engagements. But at the same time, it also tracked times of days of the week. So we were also to see what locations had greater nexus of engagements. And potentially then on the other side, when it came to the content, if a business or one of the beacons had a redemption factor, we would be able to check back in with the people honoring that and see how many points of engagement there. But also, I guess that was not also our ultimate goal, is to see redemption and necessarily measure revenue for businesses, but the point to see the connections, right? Our big goal was the connectivity issue. And we were trying to figure out how we could keep sharing information east to west, sand to land, beach to bay. type of thing. So it was really kind of interesting for us there. And then also to see our growth as an organization, how many new businesses joined as a member because they wanted to take advantage of an opportunity like this. So, but we weren't tracking user data or any demographic data at all. And that was also the other thing too, because of the physical web being eliminated from iPhone users, the QR code differential versus the engagement versus the beacon. So we were able to look at those things too.
Yes, I think we have time for one, maybe two more questions, but you.
Yeah. Melanie, you mentioned that you have to reverse engineer against your data set, right?
Yeah.
So if you talk a little bit about how you're.
That's really fun.
And I know. Well, and then I'm wondering for everyone else, I mean, did you find gaps in the data that you needed to create your apps, or was the data that you needed to create, aside from what you collect, but the data you needed to create the app, did you find gaps, or did you have to FOIL request anything, or
so
extrapolate?
We do just I get to read policy manuals for Medicaid. And we do it across the country. We're live across the country, so I'm a very interesting person to have a political conversation with because I know what the rules are and don't be messing around with the facts on the rules. But I think what we were able to do, there's a group walking around here. We've opened up we've turned them into APIs so that other groups don't have to reverse engineer all of this stuff. So a group that's trying to help build employment programs can just use our APIs to figure out if the wage people are leaving your employment program, will they still be eligible for health insurance and stuff like that. Like, since we did all that work, we're like, well, let's just turn it around and put it back out so that people can take that data and reuse it without having to know all the stupid things I know. But I think across the board, this is all new. Open data, Noel's been doing this for a while, but it's still as new as anything, and especially when it comes to government and city data, that's hard enough, and then you get down. But I feel like when you guys see the stuff that can happen with it, data becomes, it makes the case for why it should be there. And open. And New York City is very positive when it comes to open data. I had to reverse engineer it because I work in Texas, California, Texas, you think open data, I can't even, they have 210 counties. Think about that kind of, it's crazy. So New York is very progressive. Getting to show people across the country what we can do with cool data is the way you push this forward, I think.
I think in a lot of ways, the question of what data needs to exist that doesn't exist is a big part of the value of this whole challenge. It was an opportunity to say, if you're going to go to a community level, like a neighborhood business community, what's not a data set right now, and how can we actually create that somehow so it lives on and the content's available and managed going forward and everything else. So.
I think we're at time.
Yeah, I know. I see everybody wandering around with coffee.
I want to thank everybody for coming and thank our panelists.